Just off the beaten path in the upstate of South Carolina is a town that takes you back in time. And this is the town of Pendleton, a place where history lives, and this history is scattered throughout the streets of this beautiful and delightful, picture-perfect southern treasure. From its town square to the grand antebellum homes, Pendleton's history stretches back over 2 centuries. In this video, we will take a look at some of the most iconic landmarks, including the historic homes of Ashtabula and Woodburn, and show you the annual Spring Jubilee Festival. I enjoyed the time I spent in Pendleton, and I wanted to show you this small town with a big story to tell, so let's get started. Pendleton's history goes back to the 18th century, after the Revolutionary War, when the upstate area of South Carolina was being opened up to settlement. The land that became Pendleton was originally occupied by the Cherokee Nation. Many Cherokees had sided with the British during the Revolutionary War in an effort to stop colonial invasion on their lands. In retaliation, colonial militias launched punitive raids that destroyed many Cherokee towns. The Treaty of DeWitt's Corner was signed on May the 20th, 1777, during the Revolutionary War. The treaty forced the Cherokee to cede vast portions of land in the upstate of South Carolina and North Georgia. The treaty ended what was known as the Second Cherokee War. The name DeWitt's Treaty came about because it was signed at a trading post called DeWitt's Corner, that is now 96 South Carolina. Delegates from the Cherokee Nation and representatives from South Carolina and Georgia were at the signing. The Cherokee signed the treaty under duress, as their communities had been devastated by the militia raids. Negotiations were one-sided because the Cherokee had no leverage. The loss of land seriously disrupted the Cherokee way of life, cutting them off from their hunting grounds and their sacred sites. The Treaty of Hopewell was signed on November 28, 1785, between the United States and the Cherokee, after the Revolutionary War, which ended in 1783. It was viewed as a more formal and permanent treaty than the DeWitt's Corner Agreement. It was signed at Hopewell Plantation, the home of General Andrew Pickens. General Pickens had fought the Cherokee during the war. The home is located in Clemson, South Carolina. In this treaty, the Cherokee agreed to U.S. sovereignty and agreed to boundary lines meant to stop settler expansion. In return, the United States promised to protect Cherokee lands, punish settlers who trespassed, and build trade and diplomacy. Despite the treaty, settlers continued to invade Cherokee territory with little or no punishment. The government lacked the will or means to enforce what they had agreed to. The Cherokee believed that the treaty would preserve their remaining land, but it did not. After the Revolutionary War, settlers primarily of Scottish, Irish, and English descent began migrating to the area. In 1789, the Pendleton District was established by the South Carolina legislature. The district was abolished in 1826 and became Anderson, Pickens, and Oconee counties. The town of Pendleton was established in 1790, and both the town and the Pendleton district were named after Judge Henry Pendleton. Henry Pendleton, who was originally from Virginia, fought in the Revolutionary War. He died in 1788 at the age of 38. After its founding in 1790, Pendleton quickly grew into a prominent hub for the surrounding upstate region. Wealthy farmers and professionals from Charleston and the Low Country built summer homes here, attracted by the town's elevation, cooler temperatures, and scenic views of the Blue Ridge Mountains. They also wanted to escape the suffocating heat on the coast and the danger of disease that came with it. By the early 1800s, Pendleton had developed into a refined and cultured community, complete with schools, churches, a farmers' society, and a town square that served as the heart of civic life. Cotton plantations in the surrounding area helped drive the economy, and the town became a meeting place for some of the most influential families in the state. It was said that Pendleton soon became known for refined and beautiful women and elegant, high-toned, chivalrous gentlemen. During the Civil War, Pendleton escaped the widespread destruction that devastated other parts of South Carolina. Union forces under General William T. Sherman concentrated their efforts well to the south and east of Pendleton. But Sherman did send troops to the upstate of South Carolina in early May of 1865 to hunt for Confederate President Jefferson Davis and other members of the Confederate government who were on the run, as well as Confederate gold. Union troops did pass through Pendleton during this time, and they looted and damaged many homes and buildings. After the Civil War ended, the plantation-based economy collapsed with the end of slavery, and Pendleton's growth slowed. It was bypassed by major railroads and highways, and this might have doomed other towns, but in Pendleton's case, that isolation preserved its charm and uniqueness. Many of its antebellum buildings, homes, and public spaces survived the 19th and 20th centuries virtually intact. And that's what makes Pendleton so special today. It isn't just a historic town. It's a town where history lives. So let's take a closer look at some of the buildings and homes that tell the story of Pendleton's past. One of the many interesting facts about Pendleton is the entire town and its immediate surroundings are listed on the National Register of Historic Places, making Pendleton one of the largest historic districts in the nation. When talking about historical buildings in Pendleton, I will start with Farmers Hall. Construction started on the building in 1826. Originally, the building was going to be a courthouse for the Pendleton district, but when the district was abolished by the state legislature in 1826, the courthouse was no longer needed and construction was halted. The unfinished building was acquired by the Pendleton Farmers Society in 1828. They completed the structure and converted it into Farmers Hall. The columns were added in 1848. It is the oldest Farmers Society Hall still in use in the United States today. John C. Calhoun, former Vice President of the United States, and Thomas Green Clemson were two former members of the Farmers Society. I made a video about John C. Calhoun and Thomas Green Clemson, and I'll include the link to that video in the description below. Today, The Farmers Society still convenes in the upstairs meeting room of Farmers Hall, and the ground floor is the 1826 Bistro Restaurant. Hunter's Store, located at the corner of Mechanic and Queen Streets, is a popular landmark in Pendleton. The building first opened its doors in 1850. It was originally built by Jesse Lewis to serve as a general store. In 1873, James Hunter took over full ownership after buying into the business in 1870. After taking full ownership, Hunter renamed the store James Hunter Dealer in General Merchandise. The store became the go-to place for the people in the Pendleton area to purchase their everyday needs. Items such as clothing and fabrics, food and other provisions, beverages, household goods, tools, and other necessities would have been available. It was the very definition of one-stop shop. The business stayed in the family for several generations until 1962, when it was liquidated. Today, the building is home to the Pendleton District Historical, Recreational, and Tourism Commission. You can research local history there, and the building also has a bookshop and an exhibit area. This is the Hunter's Store warehouse that was built in 1880. It is located very close to the Hunter's Store, and I have read that it is the only remaining outbuilding of several used by the Hunters. The guardhouse in Pendleton is more than just a historic structure. It's a symbol of the town's story. Built around 1860, this building has served many roles over the decades, from a town jail and guard post to a public library and civic office, adapting alongside the needs of the community. Today, visitors can stop inside the guardhouse and experience a tangible link to the past. Located in the town square, also called the Village Green, it is surrounded by other historic buildings and homes. Currently, the guardhouse serves as an office for the Pendleton Historic Foundation and a gift shop. Around 1790, Thomas Lofton constructed a two-story brick house that you see here on a 320-acre land grant. In the late 1790s, the property was purchased by James Gassaway and became a tavern on the Stagecoach Road that travelers would use. Gassaway also used this building as an inn that offered, besides lodging, food and spirits. During this time, the location was a local social center in Pendleton. This two-story structure would later become part of the Ashtabula plantation home. In the mid-1820s, the plantation was acquired by Lewis L. Gibbs and his wife, Maria Drayton. They were from Charleston, South Carolina. It was Gibbs who started construction on the large frame house that is now known as Ashtabula. By the way, Ashtabula means river of many fish. Unfortunately, both Lewis and Maria would pass away before the home's completion. The property would change hands many times through the years, and at the present time, the Pendleton Historic Foundation owns the property. I plan on doing a video dedicated to the story of Ashtabula in a future episode. The Woodburn Plantation was built in 1832 by South Carolina Lieutenant Governor Charles Pinckney as a summer home. Pinckney purchased the land around 1828. Like Ashtabula, the property was sold several times through the years, and also like Ashtabula, is now owned by the Pendleton Historic Foundation. The home is 4 stories and you can view 18 rooms. On the property, there are several outbuildings that can be viewed. I am also planning to do a video on Woodburn in a future episode. While I was able to go inside of Ashtabula, Woodburn was not open for viewing when I was there, so hopefully I will be able to tour the inside of the Woodburn home in the near future. At this point, we will take a look at a few of the other historical homes located in the town area of Pendleton. Most of these homes, if not all, are private residences, so the view will be limited to what is visible from the street and or sidewalk. I will give a brief history of the homes, but keep in mind that information was very hard to find, and if some of you feel I got something wrong, please leave a comment. This is the Elam Sharp House. It was built in 1818 and is referred to as an upcountry townhouse. I have also read that the house was built in 1802, but the 1818 year was the date I saw most often. But it could be that the original structure was built in 1802 and changes were made in 1818, but I could not verify that. The house is 2 stories with clapboard siding and is a significant architectural and historical landmark in Pendleton. This home was built around 1811 and is called boxwood. The name comes from all the boxwoods that are found on the property. Some of them are thought to be over 160 years old. Additions were made to the house in 1825, 1835, and 1959. Here is the Simpson house. It was difficult to get a good photograph due to the large trees, but I wanted to include this home because of the story of Richard Wright Simpson, who was a politician, lawyer, and farmer. It was Simpson who drew up the will of Thomas Green Clemson, and this will called for the creation of an institution of higher learning on Clemson's property after his death. Of course, the institution became Clemson University. The Poe House was built in 1860 for Mrs. Ellen Taylor Poe. I could not find any information on Miss Poe except that she may have been a widow when this house was built. As I read, she moved in with her small children. I did read some information that led me to believe that her husband's name was William, but I am not certain of that. I also read that her husband was a second cousin to Edgar Allan Poe, but again, I couldn't confirm that. Here is the Colonel Bernard B. home. It was built around 1833. Colonel B. and one of his sons, Hamilton, were very important in the United States recognizing Texas and making it a state in 1845. His other son, Bernard Elliott B., was a Confederate general and was killed during the First Battle of Bull Run in Manassas, Virginia in July of 1861. This is the Thomas Pickens house. It was built in 1860. Thomas Pickens was a doctor in Pendleton who married Keziah Miles. This house was a wedding present from Thomas to his bride. Unfortunately, she apparently didn't like the house, as she refused to move in. The house was lived in by various families, such as the Green and Sittons, after Keziah's refusal to move in. I have read that the house remains pretty much original to its construction. In 1846, James Hunter purchased the land where he would eventually build this residence. It was built in 1860 and is known today as the James Hunter House. Hunter was a prominent figure in the community, serving as the town's chief municipal officer, blacksmith, and, as mentioned earlier, became owner of Hunter's store. The Hunter House features the same exterior design as the Sitton House that is located directly across the street. And speaking of the Sitton House, it was built in 1859 and holds the distinction of being the first brick residence in Pendleton. It has remained in the Sitton family for generations with no other occupants. The house was built by John Bradley Sitton, who was at one time the mayor and postmaster of Pendleton, and for a time one of its rooms even served as the local post office. Although modern updates have been made over the years, the home's original appearance remains largely unchanged. This home is known as Doralon. I have read 2 different stories about this home, and I will touch on both of those briefly. The first goes that the house was built in 1880 by J. Norton Hunter of the Hunter store family. Hunter married Antoinette Pinkett. She was known as Nettie. Her mother was an exiled Polish countess, Amelia Pinkett, who was also a concert pianist in her youth and also lived in the house. The other story is the house was built by Amelia Pinkett in 1880 and was inherited by J. Norton Hunter, who was her son-in-law, of course. I'm not sure which story is correct, but if anyone knows, please leave a comment. Around 1830, Elijah Winston, a formerly enslaved blacksmith, built this home on land he acquired after gaining his freedom. Winston later divided the property among his 14 children, establishing a lasting family presence. Today, his descendants continue to live on properties of the original land and throughout the Pendleton area. Now, I would like to show you a few other locations that are not historic homes, but are historic nonetheless. First is St. Paul's Episcopal Church. Founded on June 17, 1819, St. Paul's Episcopal Church is often considered the mother church of the Holy Trinity, playing a major role in the Episcopal ministry throughout the upstate region. The church was fully operational by 1822 and remains an important part of the area's religious history. The church graveyard is the final resting place for many of South Carolina's most notable figures. Among them are Mrs. John C. Calhoun, and John C. Calhoun himself is buried in Charleston, South Carolina, Civil War General Bernard E. Bee, who gave General Thomas Jackson the nickname Stonewall, and Thomas Green Clemson and his wife Anna Maria Calhoun, to name just a few. The Pendleton Playhouse, home to the Clemson Little Theater, has a strong and vibrant history. The Clemson Little Theater was founded in 1931 and originally performed in venues around Clemson. In 1989, an old movie theater in Pendleton was purchased by local supporters of the group and transformed it into the Pendleton Playhouse, and it has since been the permanent home of the Clemson Little Theater. Earlier, I showed you the James Hunter House. Right beside his house is a small brick building that Hunter may have used as a blacksmith shop or a tin shop. During the Civil War, It was occupied by the Jones Rifle Company and was most likely involved in the storage and repair of rifles. The last thing I would like to mention is the annual Pendleton Spring Jubilee. The Jubilee is held the first weekend in April, and this year, 2025, was the 48th year of the event. It features artisans from across the country. You will find artwork, pottery, photography, mixed media, jewelry, woodcraft, and more during the Jubilee. Also, there is live music, local food vendors, and family-friendly activities, and all this takes place in the town square area of Pendleton. I was able to be there for one of the days of the Jubilee and thoroughly enjoyed it. And while I was taking in the Jubilee, I went inside one of the shops, the art gallery on Pendleton Square, and took a look around. This gallery is located right on the town square, and I have read that it is run by local artists. What I saw was incredible. They have so many different types of artwork, and each item is unique and vibrant. You will see ceramics, fused glass, fiber art, different styles of paintings, photography, and much more. And this is just one of the shops located on the square. I hope you enjoyed this video about Pendleton, South Carolina. Certainly, I didn't cover all there is to see and do in this beautiful historic town. If you have an opportunity, I encourage you to visit Pendleton and check it out for yourself. I don't think you will be disappointed. I know I wasn't. I will leave links to websites for the town of Pendleton as well as the Pendleton Historic Foundation in the description of this video. I will also include, as I stated earlier, a link to my video on John C. Calhoun, Thomas Green Clemson, and the Fort Hill Estate, as well as my video on the Old Stone Church, as it has ties to Pendleton as well. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I would really appreciate it. I will have another video out soon, and until then, I wish you all the best.